Here we go.
All right. So I have my ingredients already mise en placed out. I'm going to do it a little bit differently than that recipe was in the recipe that we saw that I just read to you. Mostly because I am a little more comfortable with doing this. So I have my double mesh strainer. I have a variety of bowls. I have my pot here. And I have my mise en place ingredients. I'm gonna start by putting the pot on the heat. I'm gonna start warming up my milk for the pastry cream. All right. While I bring that to a simmer, I'm gonna add most of the sugar to it. I'm gonna give it a little stir so that the sugar isn't all lumped up in one area. Now, while that's coming to a simmer, I'm going to separate my eggs. So I have 4 eggs here. We talked about our egg separating station, right? Because I am right-handed, I am going to move right to left. Let's see. I'm gonna break my egg on the counter into my hand and get my little yolk out. Again, into my hand. I have a nice clean bowl of whites. And you can see that my whites are going to be clean because if you look at my egg yolks, they're all whole. So my egg whites are beautiful and clean. My egg yolks are whole. I'm just going to rinse my hands and set the egg whites aside. We don't need the egg whites for this recipe. So I can set those aside to make like a meringue or something yummy like that. Now, so I don't burn my yolks with my sugar. Sorry, there's like a lump on my egg yolk. I'm going to slowly add the sugar to the yolks while I mix it. This is important so that we don't burn it. I'm gonna whisk that quickly. As you can see, you can still see the granulation of the sugar in there, so I won't want that to sit for too long. Yes, sorry. I'm gonna add my cornstarch to this. Ooh, it's making a mess. Cornstarch is a very light, fluffy ingredient that tends to get everywhere. I'm just going to add a pinch of salt. Now, while I wait for my sugar and my milk to come up to temperature, we're looking for a simmer, which is just under a boil. I'm going to clean up my counter, right? Because I have a little bit of a mess here that needs to be cleaned up. We're always going to be cleaning as we go. Anytime you have an extra moment in your recipe, you should be wiping it down. Now, my counter is beautiful and clean. It doesn't have any more raw egg white or any raw egg on the counter. Doesn't have any more cornstarch, so I have a nice clean area to go in.
It's like
my, what were you gonna say, Chef?
Coming to a simmer, it sounds
like. It is coming to a simmer. I can hear it and I can see it a little bit because it's forming very, very small bubbles around the outside of the pot. That is under a simmer. My guess is that that is probably about 180. Oh, nope, not even close.
Oh, 160 and 70.
That's the bottom of the pot.
Oh.
But if we bring it up, the top of the pot is more like 125. So should be soon. You can see the steam starting to rise off the pot as well. I'm gonna give this a stir. Did you hear the sound stop? The sound stopped because it was the stuff on the bottom of the pot that was hotter than the stuff at the top. When I stir it together and even out the temperature, it will change, right? It will lower the overall temperature, but it'll raise the temperature at the top of the pot. Now we're having more of sort of a foamy look on top, so that tells me that the milk is getting even warmer. Now I'm almost ready to temper. You can hear it making that noise. The noise is the bubbles on the bottom of the pot.
Are you going to pour it in, Chef Hansen, or use a ladle?
I'm going to pour it. And I'm going to use my towel right here to steady my bowl. Do you think the kids would like to see ladle or pour?
I think pour is nice.
All right. So I have a lot of steam coming off, if you can see it. I have a lot of steam coming off of my pot, and I have some small bubbles on the top. And now I see bubbles on the top of my surface, and I know I'm ready. My milk is scalded or it's at a simmer. You can take a look and see how hot that is. And I'm gonna temper this. Now with 2 students, I would have 1 pour and 1 stir. Put that back. Now I'm gonna stir this up to make sure that we're all really, really good before I keep going. You see that thinned out my mixture? Now, people strain at different points. I like to strain at this point, going back on. So I poured slowly, but I didn't go so slow. And if I lift my whisk up, see how it looks so nice and clean? It's just foam. There's no strands of egg on it. There's nothing. It's a nice, even mixture. Now I'm going to strain back into the pot. You can see that there was some things that needed to come out.
Can I see?
Some things that needed to get strained out, so this is an important step. I'm adding it back to my stove top, and I have to be careful to really stir. I like to stir both with a whisk and a spatula at this point so it doesn't scorch on the bottom. I'm gonna pull it off the heat a little bit because it's going really fast. I'm using the whisk to even out the texture so that it is smooth and lump free. You can see how that texture has changed to very even. We talked about how the eggs are coagulating right now. Woo. Now, with the cornstarch, we need this to come to a boil. If it was just eggs, we would not need that. In fact, we would not want it to come to a boil. There, did you see the texture just change? And it's at a full boil. We're gonna boil it 1 minute. You see how I am using my spatula to make sure that we are not scorching it. You can see glimpses of the bottom of the pan, which is nice and clear. Let's see, I think you guys should be able to see this. See how thick that has become? I wish you guys could try it. You would love it. It looks very smooth, very thick, and it has boiled for about 1 minute. I'm using my spatula so carefully to make sure that there's no brown spots or burned spots on the bottom of my pan. So, this is now service ready, but this has raw eggs. I am going to very carefully get rid of this, put it in the dirty dish sink, and then I'm going to wipe down my counter so that I can do the vanilla and the butter safely without having any cross-contamination with the raw eggs. So we're off the heat. We've stopped cooking. I'm gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla, but I'm not gonna add it over the pot in case it spills.
Maybe you could put all that in if you want.
This is my 2 ounces, or my 1 ounce of butter, my 2 tablespoons of butter. So again, this is not a base because it has been cooked. You guys are gonna do your think aloud with the creme brulee base. Stirring this all the way in. See how the butter makes it look silkier? And then let me get this for these guys since we're filming it twice. See, the butter has made it a silkier texture. Delicious. Right now I smell egg, I smell vanilla. It smells really, really delicious. Here's my finished pastry cream. If you take a look at the bottom of my pot, there's no brown, right? I was very careful not to scorch it. Whoops. Something. Some people strain it at the end right now, which is another way to make sure that we don't get anything in it. Now lastly, you guys remember that our last step is to put plastic wrap directly on the surface of this pastry cream. So I'm not going to do it like this over the top of the bowl. Instead, I'm going to go directly onto the surface. So I press it down so that it's directly touching my pastry cream. Now I could either ice bath this, or because it's such a small amount, I can put it directly in the fridge because I want to avoid cross-contamination. Or not cross-contamination, I want to avoid temperature danger zone. So I'm going to put this right in the fridge and we're done.